We're joined now by our Senior Counsel for Global Affairs, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And Secretary Pompeo, we have Democrats celebrating passing what they're calling this, quote, Inflation Reduction Act in the Senate over the weekend. It now moves to the House and could ultimately move to President Biden's desk. It would take Democrats scuttling it to stop that. You called it a cover for more government spending. What do you think the impact's going to be? Because they, on the American people, they try to sell these usually as, you're going to get influx, you're going to get a check, you're going to get something where people kind of give it a pass. But in this, trying to find out, what is this? How is this benefiting an everyday average American? It's tough to figure out.
Jordan, it is tough to figure out. And I actually think while they seem pretty celebratory today, they should be very careful about what they celebrate. This will prove to be a victory without any, that'll be very hollow, because it will all come back to harm the American people. Average, ordinary families who are trying to live their lives, go to church, do the things we all do, will be punished by this. There are deeply buried in this huge handouts to the union bosses, to the union cronies that advantage union work against small companies all across America. If anybody thinks for a second that the new 86,000 IRS employees are going to just go after the couple hundred billionaires or a couple thousand people worth a lot of money, they're crazy. They will come after citizens of every stripe who are just working people. This will pose huge costs on the American economy, and even the CBO doesn't think it's going to do a darn thing to lower inflation. I can't imagine that government spending would, for the first time in history, ever actually lower inflation.
Mike, I'm going to focus on the IRS aspect of this because my first job out of law school was the Office of Chief Counsel, Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service. I was a trial lawyer, and things have changed a lot in the 40-something years I was there. But the problem is you've got an agency that is unbelievably incompetent, and I've said institutionally incapable of self-correcting. And at the very same time, they are given this tranche of money to increase their agents, and it's going to be audits on the middle class because that's what always happens here. So it's as if the American people are spending more of their money to get IRS agents that are not properly trained and an agency that you still have to fax information to audit middle-class Americans. That's what this bill really does.
Well, Jay, that's absolutely true. A couple of things. One, the claim is that they hire these agents and they'll more than pay for themselves. I saw somewhere somebody figures it'll cost $250,000 for every additional IRS agent. That might be right. The chance of them generating more than $250,000 is zero. So this will be a net cost, not a net gain. But, Jay, you've been so much at the center working on these issues at the IRS. Don't think that this won't even make it more politicized. You remember when they came after conservatives. Everybody remembers the famous Lois Lerner. Yep. The risk that the IRS, now almost double in size, will continue to not only be incompetent but political, increases dramatically. And it wouldn't shock you to know that I'll bet the Democrats know that too.
I am holding in my hand, actually, Mike, the consent order that we won in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. It's up on the screen now. Linchpins of Liberty versus the United States of America. And the two aspects of it that are really interesting. One is the IRS had to acknowledge the First Amendment generally prohibits the government from discriminating against citizens on the basis of viewpoints, especially when involved protected speech. But the other thing is the IRS admitted that its treatment of the plaintiffs, and these were these nonprofit conservative organizations, during the tax-exempt determination process, including their screening their applications based on their names or policy positions, subjecting those applications to heightened scrutiny and inordinate delays, and demanding from some of the plaintiffs information that the Tax Inspector General's Office, TIGTA, determined was unnecessary to the agency's determination of their tax-exempt status was wrong. For such treatment, the IRS expresses its sincere apology. That's in the consent decree, which I wanted it in there because I wanted to show the nature of this. But the problem is the whole policy here doesn't address the need that the American people are really feeling, and that is the increase of inflation at record rates higher than it has been since at least 1981.
It's impossible. Your point's exactly right. And the work that the ACLJ did to help conservative organizations protect themselves from the IRS should never be forgotten. Now you'll have twice as much work to do. But your point about this bill, there's not a single provision that you can point to in there that if you're a family living in Iowa or your family living out in Minnesota that says, boy, that's really going to help me make sure I can afford energy. Instead, it's going to give a bunch of money to somebody who wants to build a windmill or a solar panel instead of doing the things that would actually impact your life. This is the disconnect that Biden administration is trying to foist on the American people as they celebrate this victory, it's going to drive cost to the average consumer, and I think people will be able to see right through this.
You know, one thing I'm most nervous about is that it's the wealthy can afford their attorneys and accountants to handle interactions with the IRS. We know that this new group of IRS agents is being tasked with finding, as you said, find more money so we can pay for our Green New Deal. And I just have this concern. They're going to be going to the people who are doing their best to follow the IRS rules and pay their taxes on time and pay their right amount of taxes, but don't have a lot of professional assistants who are going to be hit with these audits, and it's going to be a lot different experience for them than it will be for the people in the top earning brackets who can rely on professionals to handle their taxes.
Undoubtedly, Jordan. 86,000 new agents. 86,000. That's a massive company in its own right. And this will fall. The small companies trying to comply, trying to figure out the complexity of the Internal Revenue Code, or a family who's got a second business that they do after work hours. Those are the folks that are going to suffer. Those are the folks who the IRS will end up coming after. And they won't have the time, the resources to actually defend against what they did that they thought was right. And they may even have it right, won't be able to produce some document that some government official says you must have. This is tragic. It will impose enormous costs, and it will benefit. It'll benefit big government and big business at the cost of ordinary families and small businesses all across our country.
Let's go to, if we could, change topics for a moment and go to China. And that is, you have a piece up at ACLJ.org. The Biden administration displayed weakness during Speaker Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. This morning, reporters asked President Biden if he thought Pelosi's trip was a mistake, and he replied, that was her decision, which is not exactly a ringing endorsement of what she did. What's your sense of where we are with this?
I saw President Biden's comment this morning. No, that basically says we didn't want her to go. She went against our wishes. And the most important audience for that comment was Xi Jinping. He now knows that he has the capacity in this administration to push back and bully President Biden. And that's dangerous. We've seen the exercises they've been conducting, the Chinese have been conducting all around Taiwan. They've done it with minimal response from the United States. This is the kind of thing that creates the conditions for real risk for war, right? Conflict follows weakness. Strength deters. And this administration, and even this morning's comment saying, well, that was her decision, suggests that he didn't think she should go. He thought that she should allow Xi Jinping to drive her travel agenda. That's bad for us.
We've got a new piece up from Secretary Pompeo. It's just up at ACLJ.org titled "The Biden Administration Displayed Weakness During Speaker Pelosi's Visit to Taiwan." Though President Biden has made this prediction, Secretary Pompeo, so I encourage people to go read that at ACLJ.org, and we'll share it all over social media platforms. But he says he said they're concerned the way they were moving, but he doesn't think they'll do anything else. I mean, it was a pretty bold statement to make fairly casually from President Biden that he doesn't think they will take any more action.
I pray that he's right. It's not an independent determination. Part of what Xi Jinping will do will be the way he sees America respond. If it is through weakness, if it is timidity, if it's backing off even the simplest things, no one wants war. But we have allowed the Chinese Communist Party to walk all over us for decades, and it looks like that is the continued plan of this administration. And if that is the case, Jordan, if we continue to show weakness, then there's more risk, more trouble ahead from the Chinese Communist Party.
All right, as always, we appreciate our Senior Counsel for Global Affairs, former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo.